So I was looking up real quick. I wanted to mention this is like hard pivot, but what the market's done this year. So if you look at S&P, NASDAQ, Russell, Dow Jones, everything. The S&P's up 11.87%, 11.23 for the NASDAQ. The Dow's up 6.4, and the Russell's up a little over 4, and the AGG, the core bond market, is down 1.4.
And foreign.
Foreign markets
are up,
Yeah.
but they're not. Near up to the. We're up 5% foreign stocks.
Yeah.
I saw it this morning. I thought this may be where you're going, but I heard it this morning that, almost everyone on Wall Street, the markets have exceeded their expectations for end of the year targets
already
before the end of May. Now,
no, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
I just found that interesting.
No,
that the markets have.
How many all-time highs have we hit on the NASDAQ, Dow, S&P this year? Just this year. I know we hit all-time highs last year, but I know we just hit one a couple days ago.
We did.
I'm assuming we're on a run of. I don't know.
I think Dow closing above 40,000 for the first time ever.
Yeah.
It held it yesterday.
Today it's starting a little low, but that's okay. This is unbelievable kind of times, and I do think we'll look back on this. And now we've gone from, just think about this. And I had this conversation in a seminar that we do. Mach went to seminars, and we had one, and somebody asked about the market, where we're going, and the presidential election effect on the market, right? Yeah. And I went back to 2009 and showed the chart of the Dow was at 6,400 on March 7th of 2009 intraday.
15 years ago.
Just think about it. That's not that long ago. It was 6,400. We hit 40,000. So even if you go through Barack Obama, you go through Donald Trump, you go through Joe Biden. These are three completely different presidencies, three completely different economic policies, three completely different Fed actions, right? We had to do way crazy things happen, COVID and so on. And we've gone from 6,400 to 40,000. Now, there's two things I think on that, though. It's a big bullish run for the last 15 years. Yeah. And I would like to think and hope that the bull can run forever. And but I do think there's a natural, and we've had a few little pullbacks here and there in that time frame, of course. But it's, I look at that and think, is that run are we going to be at 80,000 15 years from now? It's just hard to believe that. It's hard to think that, but that's on the pace we're on.
Sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
Down 1 million. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I probably won't be doing a podcast at that time.
The Dow hit.
Yeah. Those jokes will mean a little bit more when we get to that point. Yeah. Okay. So we had a great comment from one of our past podcasts that we wanted to bring up. So I think Eli was talking about how younger people buying houses. So John, you mentioned earlier, you kind of feel for young people, and he's, Eli was getting to the point where it does though depend on, specific situations where you live.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Education and other factors. And this was a comment from one of our listeners. He says, "I welded in New York or in New England. Everybody I knew was my age, 23 plus maybe 5 years, and they were all renting. I don't know a single person from back home that owns a home. Just recently moved to South Carolina, still a welder, and every coworker I've met so far that's my age or a few years older owns a home." It was a pretty big wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
So it was, nothing more to say other than just kind of validating someone's real-life experience of what Eli was saying. It is dependent on same job.
Yep.
Right? So it's not like he switched careers or switched professions. He moved, and the economic situation from his, changed drastically enough to the positive, but
cost of living,
and I would say that probably has more to do with it. The cost of a home in New England, Massachusetts, New York,
right.
It's probably a good bit more than in South Carolina, and so I'm sure that played a factor.
And I feel like the discrepancy between incomes, and I may be far off. This is literally, I'm just pulling this out of.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
The discrepancy of incomes between the cities and some of the nicer, smaller towns that are growing is not as drastic as it used to be.
I agree.
Right.
And some of that may be because people are working remote. So some of those people living in, South Carolina or wherever this may be, might be working for Apple and Microsoft. So that might have something to do with it. But I feel like it used to be so much that like you could go make a fortune in terms of income in a big city, but it costs a fortune to live.
Right.
Now it's like you can go make a really good income in a smaller town, and that's changed a little bit. I don't know exactly.
I
why,
totally
but
agree with what you're saying, and I saw an actual conversation about that when I was watching the business channels the other day, because the difference, the percentage. They said it a different way, but it's exactly what you're talking about. The percentage gap is tightened on how much you make outside, but the cost of living is still a bigger gap.
It's still wide,
which is kind of amazing.
Sure.
So that makes a lot of sense in this person's particular case. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Why you would have that different,
and
much different.
You see
lifestyle.
that pretty easily in the exodus from California.
Oh yeah.
Those tech workers can make probably the same salaries in Texas.
and it's probably people like retiring.
Sure.
Right. A lot of people, they may spend their career in some of these bigger cities, but a lot of people move when they go to retire because it's very different. It's way more affordable.
I have a client in California. This is a true story. They have 2 kids. The kids are now in college and moved on, but they lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with these 2 kids in El Segundo, California, which is kind of squeezed in between Manhattan Beach and nice areas, but El Segundo is kind of right there. And they're millionaires. And I mean, I've talked to them about how easy their life would be if they moved anywhere else. I mean, they're literally struggling in California, and they are millionaires, and they know it. But they have a family member, a mom that's still living at they're with her until she moves on, and then they will move on. But they fully intend to move out as soon as. But it is wild. They're millionaires, and they live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's tight.
Yeah.
You're like, wow. I mean, it's a completely different world.
Interesting.
One thing I don't understand with all the media that we have and the social media and all the access to all the information we can get, why would you ever live somewhere where you're paying 55% taxes or whatever with all the different ways?
Well, we were in Chicago.
Live somewhere else.
We were in Chicago this weekend, and we were walking down Michigan Avenue, and Haley looked over, and there was a giant digital billboard for Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Was it? Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. So they were whoever
recruiting,
was behind, promoting Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and it wasn't just like come visit. It was more about like
relocate here.
Yeah.
Well, Northwest Arkansas has put billboards up outside of Apple headquarters in California. They've put them in Austin, Texas, and up outside of Amazon in Washington. Hey.
Didn't we have an incentive to move here as well? There was a $10,000 incentive or something.
And a bike.
No, there was, right? There was something like that had gone on. I don't know if it's still going on.
That's why I moved here.
Right. You're still waiting on your 10,000.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate the comment. As always, give us a like or subscribe. Leave us a comment. We appreciate all of our listeners. We have fun with this and hope you enjoy, and we will see you guys next week.